All right, back with another informal video, and this is a topic that, as you can imagine, comes up very often. People ask me, what are some things to consider before I end up picking another piece of equipment that either is going to cost me time, money, space, and maybe more importantly, performance at the end of the day. And believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, I'm generally discouraging people away from picking up equipment. And odds are, I've shared this many times on the channel, if you guys are seeing some in the backdrop of the video, it is because I'm reviewing it for you guys. It has somewhat stood the test of time, or I'm kind of testing it myself. So rather than just cycling and reviewing everything under the sun, I really want to focus on the things that I personally be interested in, and I think you guys might find interesting as well. But I'll be the first to admit, a lot of the things that I have either aren't necessary or potentially can actually be a detriment to your training. So I want to give you guys my top 5 things that I would consider personally whenever I'm picking up any new piece of equipment, and just sharing you guys the experience that I've learned, because all these things I have learned the hard way, again, through either time, money, and just space that is being taken up in my relatively small footprint I'm working with. The first thing I'd have you guys consider picking up any piece of equipment, and you're going to especially add something in, is what particular muscle is this going to work directly with, maybe possibly some unique tension that you otherwise can't get or aren't getting with some other piece of equipment that you guys currently own. And I can already hear some of you guys in the comment section, and I pretty much agree with you from more or less to some extent, that yes, all you need is your body weight. You can get by with very relatively cheap equipment. I've shared that many times on the channel. Some might argue that aside from maybe body weight and cheap equipment, things like resistance bands might be all you need in one camp. Another camp might say all you need is a barbell and free weights. I do think it's true that yes, you can work and build a great physique and body if you just were to simply choose one of those modalities and stick to it. However, while resistance is resistance, that's a common argument that also gets brought up, the way the weight is displaced, distributed, and just how it overall hits a specific body part will be somewhat unique or objectively better from various pieces of equipment, especially and possibly your own individual needs and preferences. Also, not to mention, this could be a whole separate category here, that some people have injuries in the past, they have to kind of work around other possible limitations, and oftentimes I find people have certain preferences that either they don't have a limitation or don't have a injury per se. They might have a preconceived notion for whether that's valid or not valid. Say, for example, they think squats or some other, say, type of free weight training is going to hurt their back or their knees, so they choose just to not do that. So again, all those things being considered, you can't really convince someone otherwise, again, whether it's true or not, instead of beating a dead horse. The point is, maybe there's some other type of machine or apparatus that they want to pick up in place of, or to work around those particular needs that they set. This does come down to a certain level of personal preference in your own little belief system in resistance training. But the point is, don't buy another piece of equipment if it's not going to add any unique value to giving off some unique tension or preferred positioning for an exercise. And that may seem kind of obvious, but I find a lot of people either watch a review video, something looks kind of cool, and they don't consider these factors and just buy it because someone else told them it was good, versus thinking for themselves and actually seeing if they actually need this to replace some sort of body part that either isn't lagging or they feel like they already have, so it's hitting that specific thing. If I'm adding anything else to my gym, that especially it's a one-dimensional machine or piece, it has to hopefully contribute to something that I feel like otherwise isn't getting hit as well or adequately than I would personally like it to be. Point number 2, I think, is one of the most overlooked areas, and for me, this is something in the past that has stopped me from either getting equipment or even sticking to home gym training in general, and that is, how hard is it to possibly get rid of this machine? Or let's say either you're moving or you don't like it and you want to offload it. That is something that I think is huge, especially when you consider a lot of machines nowadays are increasingly getting on the borderline of becoming commercial grade quality and size, and just other specialized equipment that's out there that's also, again, specialized in the nature of what it does, but also in just the size it takes up in somebody's gym. I can tell you, you'd be very surprised, especially with people that I talk to and even people that do sell stuff and try and get rid of stuff. It can be very hard. Oftentimes I find people are very selective in picking up anything unless you're kind of really into this home gym space. But oftentimes I either have to give stuff away for absolutely nothing. I don't totally mind that. But the worst case scenario is people do not want it. So it sits in my garage collecting dust because I don't want to throw it away. I can't donate it because places like Goodwill won't take exercise equipment. And I actually have had to spend money to get rid of this equipment, and actually renting dumpsters or going to the landfill to dump these large pieces of equipment that I personally don't want. No one else wants it. So it gets hard to really get rid of it. So take home message here is, think long and hard if you want or need that big piece, or consider buying something that's more of a brand name that has a higher level of value. Things like Rogue and some things notorious, like even Ironmaster dumbbells, I like a lot. People have said and told me on the marketplace, those are very few and far between because people like to hold on to them. So that's for good reason. So if you're going to choose some equipment, find some stuff that not only is quality, of course, and does what it's supposed to do from point number 1, but also has some sort of just kind of a name brand name to it that'll be easier to kind of get rid of, say a Rogue barbell versus some generic Amazon one. The third point kind of goes hand in hand with the second one, and that is, where are you going to store this piece of equipment, and is it going to justify the space it's going to take up? That is something to consider. There's a lot, I've learned this recently of not picking up certain attachments. So people ask me, like, say with like the Ironmaster Super Bench, why are you picking up these other attachments that go with it? Because I just do not need them. And honestly, some of the attachments that I picked up, like the Preacher Curl Bench, which I do love and think is really cool, I'm just not really using it. And it's taking up a lot of room in this storage crate you guys see off recording in my garage. So now I've learned that lesson, that if there's any kind of accessory or kind of ecosystem, so to speak, that other machines and companies have, a lot of times I'm not getting too enticed by that and just getting more to kind of the sake of kind of completing the collection or more things I can do. I'm trying to be honest, am I actually going to use this, and this is going to justify the space? Because sometimes it's just too big and wonky, and I find the stuff I use most often is the stuff that's most accessible. I said this even with stuff that I really love, like my Total Gym, or even recently at a Hyper Pro. I said it's a really cool machine. We'll see if it kind of holds up. While it is versatile, even my Total Gym is really versatile, I said the downside with having the functional trainer and all this other stuff is that my Total Gym doesn't get used as much, because if it's not dedicated in a set space where I can easily access it, accessible to me, then I'm likely not going to use it, and I'll just use something else that is accessible. And the same thing could happen with that Hyper Pro. So I'm really trying to thin out the herd in my garage so I can have these key pieces kind of be more or less set up and ready to go, instead of taking them apart and moving their module pieces to separate stations, which again are almost taking the same amount of space as a dedicated piece of equipment. So consider all those things before you consider this growing trend of Swiss Army knife super versatile equipment. Versatile is cool, but if you're not going to use it, if it does something kind of subpar, it might not be worth it at all. Point number 4, and all this stuff kind of relates to each other, is how often are you actually going to use this thing per week? Some things are legit just awesome pieces, but you may only use them or get to them once in a while. And I've actually said this as a base point for just considering even getting a home gym. I know people that actually still go to the gym and kind of mix and match going to the gym and actually going to their house with their home gym, and they have a whole dedicated either garage or home gym space, like a whole separate room, and they only work out from home 1 or 2 times a week. And that's totally their own little prerogative and their own personal preference if they like that. But to me, it's like, does it really justify not just the actual money investment, but just the actual space it's taking up in your house if you're only using it a few times a week? I said this for myself as a lesson I learned when I was doing the high intensity training, low frequency stuff, 1 to 2 times per week in the last year and a half. That was something that was going through my brain as I was only hitting the gym, 1 or 2 times a week again for maybe 30, 40 minutes. And in my brain, I'm like, this is a lot of garage gym real estate that in some ways impedes on what my family could use it for, say for kids stuff or whatever it is, my wife's stuff. And it was more or less my dedicated space, which is fine, but it's not so cool, I don't think, if I'm only using it, say, for a total of an hour a week. That's my own personal opinion about that. That made me consider, though, for sure, the style of training. Now, I wasn't going to dedicate to that style of training forever, but that was something that went through my head, that if you were a high-intensity training person or someone who likes to train, say, a few hours a week, maybe you don't need all this equipment, of course, and trying to find the most efficient path possible so you're not taking up so much space and, again, investing money and stuff you're not going to use that much anyways. All right, the fifth and perhaps the most important thing, I think, when it comes to any piece of home gym equipment is, will this add something novel or unique that may increase your exercise adherence? I said even before, going back to leg extension, leg curl, sticking to something simple that's basic in function, I don't think you need to spend a lot of money on unless you're looking for that, maybe that resale value. But there are some things that just do things very unique. So I covered something that was more expensive, that Voltra in a recent video, I think my last video, and that one people said, well, yeah, you can just use resistance bands. I think that's true to an extent. I get what people are saying with the basic function of, say, like a foot plate versus a $2,000 unit. However, there are some very unique things you cannot do with any other piece of machinery, even if you had a weight stack machine, that for some people, it's not going to be worth that investment. But at the very least, if you had the budget, of course, that's all things considered too. And sometimes it's these unique novel pieces that actually more likely increase the odds of you actually using your home gym in the first place. The best example of that was during these lockdowns when I had access to private facilities. I had access to my power blocks and adjustable bench. I even picked up things like resistance bands, bought a squat rack for like the 3rd or 4th time in the past, which I've got bought and sold, which is a whole nother separate story related to what I'm saying here. And it was actually the Total Gym Sauna administrator that made me more adherent and had a lot of fun actually working out for home, and actually rekindled my interest in finding really efficient and just fun workouts that kept me coming back and interested in working out from home. And I found this to always be the case, that discipline or sticking with anything in the home is much harder than going to the gym. You start to get kind of used to your own environment, you get kind of very comfortable, maybe the equipment gets kind of boring, you want to mix it up a bit, and that's where I think getting some unique novel pieces come in handy. This is not, again, going to be for everyone's preferences or what people are into. Some people like just the bare bones simplicity and can stick with it and like to be disciplined with it. However, I also find there's actually some performance benefits of kind of rotating various pieces that, again, are hitting different muscles, stimulate them a little bit more, give off a little bit different unique tension, not only kind of keep things interesting, but also you just kind of feel that difference in the tension in individual muscles. So what I kind of like to do is kind of switch things up from like free weights, resistance bands, go back to my side image trainer. Those three things alone honestly kind of have this, give this nice little trifecta of kind of do a nice little rotation where I could stick to things for a period of time, introduce things back into them. The same goes for any kind of standalone big piece or even something electronic that is fun like this, where I'm actually out of town, as you guys can see. There's actually a fairly nice resort facility that I'm at. I walked in there, did a couple things. One of them actually was a very expensive leg extension leg curl machine. And I was thinking in my head, like, man, my $200 leg extension leg curl feels good, if not better than what this thing is feeling like, maybe because I'm used to it or the way it kind of gives off a certain tension with the little lever. But I just found this little Valtra that I brought with, again, more or less to show you guys more stuff on for review. Has been very fun. I've just been doing it here. My kids are watching TV and I get to kind of pull this thing out and then just do a few exercises, got to get a workout, and I just like the unique tension it's giving off. And I'm just having a good time doing it versus going down to that hotel gym, which was actually packed, kind of sweaty, kind of clammy. People were kind of taking a lot of machines. And this just allowed me to, again, get a workout in the middle of the day. I would have been sitting around here anyways, just kind of doing TV, resting from the sun. That made just the workout experience all the more interesting. Those are my top 5 things, guys. Definitely leave me your comments down below in the description box, but I would not buy another piece of equipment if it wasn't hitting any one of these cylinders here. I will see you guys on the next one.